Hey there guys, today we're discussing 3-drop mana rocks and essentially which ones are the best ones. But just before we get into the video for today, if you are enjoying the content that I'm putting out there, please do consider subscribing, turning on that notifications. It really helps us out. But with that being said, let's get right on into the video for today. Alrighty, so we're discussing 3-drop mana rocks and which ones are the best ones. Are there, like, a few years ago, I was going to say, this video essentially, but are there any good 3-drop mana rocks? And I don't think a few years ago, this is in, Return to Ravnica 3 or whatever you want to call it, War of the Spark era of Magic, when there weren't really that many really good 3-drop mana rocks and whatnot. In the last few years, we've gotten a fair few better 3-drop mana rocks since then. Certainly there are some okay-ish 3-drop mana rocks, but most of the time you wouldn't play most of the 3-drop mana rocks for the most part because, well, why not just play a 2-drop mana rock for the most part? And, if you're really, looking for power and looking for speed and looking for things for CDH, you really need 0-drop or basically less mana rocks. Free mana rocks or extremely fast mana and things like that. I don't want to play Simian Spirit Guide. I don't really see the point in playing Simian Spirit Guide. That doesn't really excite me or interest me. Just discarding a card to make a mana doesn't really seem like a play to me. I don't know. That's just me. I don't know whether that resonates with absolutely everyone. I get that. But it just doesn't, resonate with me at all. I just don't see the point in discarding a card to make a mana at all. It doesn't make sense. 1 mana once, oh, okay, that's not that amazing, or whatever. Anyway, we're not really here to discuss all of that sort of stuff. We're here to discuss 3 CMC mana rocks. One of the earliest 3 CMC mana rocks was Chromatic Lanson. That was one of the earlier ones. It wasn't the earliest ones, but it's one of the kind of better earlier ones. I'm not a huge fan of it specifically too much, but it exists. And if you're playing a 3+ color deck and you're not in green, you might want to use it. Maybe it taps for a mana of any color, and it makes your lands tap for mana of any color. So it's the ultimate fixing tool, in a sense, for itself and your lands. But in the last few years as well, this card, I feel, has dropped off quite a lot. Maybe this was better a few years ago when there were less really good dual lands and there was less really good fixing and whatnot. Now that there's so many really good dual lands and whatnot in the format, I feel like it's really dropped off the face of the earth to me and is way worse. Not that it's unplayable, but still, I'm just saying that it's not nearly as good as what it was before. Certainly it is better in those 3+ color decks is what I say. But again, I don't think you 100% need it that much. I think you wouldn't be too bad off to not play it. Some decks feel like they kind of need it in maybe 4 colors, but you don't need it in 5 colors because, again, you got access to green then, so you don't really need it. But it's just one of those things that I think it's one of those quote-unquote old staple cards that everyone kind of points their finger back to say, oh, well, that's good, isn't it? Or whatnot for the most part. So it often comes up in conversations to say, oh, well, isn't this good or whatever? So... yeah, but I think it's passable-ish, but only in those 3 and 4 color decks realistically. So it's tough to make a list when you're getting to this level because it's once I'm into 3 colors or 4 colors have got so many signets and whatnot, and all of this. Even then, it's like, well, I don't know. It's difficult to certainly, get there with this sort of things. Next up, Commander Sphere. I guess because of the name, this one got played quite a bit. I don't rate it very high at all, to be honest. It does exist in the format. It's 3 mana to add 1 mana of your commander's color identity. You can sack it at any time to draw a card. I don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's that good. I think it is a relic, again, of the past. I think a lot of people don't realize how good Mind Stone is in comparison to this. It doesn't really matter that you have to tap 1 mana to sacrifice Mind Stone. It really doesn't matter. And it doesn't really matter that you have to tap Mind Stone or whatever to get that sacrifice. It really doesn't matter. If you get Mind Stone early, you're not really caring that much. You're going to use it for mana. And if you get it late, you might just as well just sack it for cards. So, like, the difference isn't that much. If it's bad, it's going to be bad. If it's good, it's still going to be all right, at least. So I just don't rate it very high. It does exist, as I sort of say, and people will definitely keep playing it. I'm not going to tell people that they can't play a card, but I'm saying it's not the best card and saying, hey, well, you could find something better, probably. But we've got to talk about at least some of these cards. Worn Power Stone. My problem with Worn Power Stone is that it enters tapped. I think it would be fine if it entered untapped, but that's just my opinion on that. It's one of those classic cards, again, that a lot of people would think about from the old days of Mana Rocks. I think you can do way better than this. Even in the 3-drop slot, I think you can do way better than this. Basalt Monolith. I actually think Basalt Monolith is easily broken, so it's pretty darn good. So I like getting infinite mana with it isn't too hard. You just need something to reduce the cost or increase its mana output. Same with Grim Monolith, basically. So it's one of those cards that if you can break it, well, it just basically makes you infinite mana, and that's really busted. So it is really good in that sense. I don't like it personally because I'm just one to be like, well, I don't want a card that is broken or potentially broken, and a 3-drop mana rock that just makes 3 mana doesn't excite me. So, and it doesn't untap, so yeah, and I'm not going to pay 3 mana to keep untapping it, I don't think. And so unless it was broken, then I wouldn't probably use it, and I probably wouldn't use it because it's broken. So that's just me being me and not liking that whole effect and whatnot. Darksteel Ingot, just a classic old card. Again, indestructible, 3-drop mana rock, just makes a mana of any color. I think there's so many better mana rocks than this, and we're not really going to discuss it for very long. We're going to move on to Heraldic Banner. You can choose a color when Heraldic Banner enters the battlefield. Creatures of the chosen color get +1/+0, and you can tap to add 1 mana of the chosen color. This is really good if you're in a monocolor deck, or if you have basically a whole lot of things that are really on one color, for the most part. So you choose that color when it comes in, and your creatures of that color get buffed, and it can make a mana of that color. It's okay. It's not terribly super duper busted, but it's decent at least. Next one, Skyclave Relic. This one's actually a decent one as well. 3 mana, but you can kicker it for 3. And if you kicker it for 3, it enters the battlefield, and you create 2 tapped tokens that are copies of it, and it taps for 1 mana of any color. So 6 mana to get 3 mana rocks. That's pretty good. That make mana of any color. That's okay. Not the best, not the worst, but still, that's okay. The fact that it's also indestructible, I think that's pretty good. So it is hard to get rid of. That's why people liked Dark Steel Ingot, because it was like hard to get rid of. So they could keep their mana rocks around and keep their mana going. But honestly, at a certain point, you're better off sacrificing them or having cards later. So that's why I think like actually Command Sphere is better than like Dark Steel Ingot by a lot, because even if somebody's going to go to destroy it, you can just sack it. So you get at least a card out of it. So I think, like, again, these cards that are indestructible, you would rather just be able to sack them, mostly to draw a card or whatever, when that happens. So, yeah, but that's just my perspective on it. Next, Midnight Clock. I think Midnight Clock's actually probably the best one that we've talked about so far. It is a mono blue, essentially, artifact as well, but you can put it in any deck that has blue. So you put an hour counter on Midnight Clock for 3 mana, 2 and a blue. At the beginning of each upkeep, you put an hour counter on it. When the 12th hour counter is put on Midnight Clock, you can shuffle your hand and graveyard into your library, draw 7 cards, and exile Midnight Clock. So you play it on turn 3. You can tap to add blue mana, and you can do this for, essentially, how many turns you pass to your opponent, it gets 1 hour counter, 2 hour counters, 3 hour counters. On your turn, it has 4 hour counters. So then you 5, 6, 7, then you're at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you get 3 uses probably out this, unless you put an extra hour counter on it before you get to, what is it? Not time. Yeah. What's the blue wheel? I can't remember the blue wheel that shuffles your library into your graveyard into your library rather. I can't really remember it. Sorry. Dear, it's not Time Sieve, is it? It's something like that, but I can't just remember it right now. But you get to do that. That's a really good effect. If you want to keep it around, it's a little bit worse, but at the end of the day, you get it for the first 4 or 5 turns of the game, probably 6 turns of the game. It does depend if you play it on turn 3 as well, but again, if you play it early on turn 3, you get it till turn 4, 5, yes, 6. You get it till turn 6, then you get a fresh new hand of cards, and you get your graveyard back into your library. So hopefully by that point you've got a lot of cards in your graveyard that you can keep, churning you into more cards and whatnot. So I think it's really great. It is a blue artifact, so you have to be in blue for it, but that's a small hurdle to overcome a lot of the time. Replicating Ring. 3 mana taps for 1 mana of any color. At the beginning of upkeep, put a night counter on the ring, and then it has 8 or more counters. You remove all of them, and you create 8 colorless copies that are tokens of it, that are tapped. I think. No, they just enter the battlefield. And yeah, that's really, really good because, again, it does it for free, but you have to wait for 8 turns or whatever. That's a really long time. It is a decent card because, again, if the game goes really long, you just get a whole bunch of mana, and then each one of those will get a counter. And then if you get 8 more turns in the game, which is really unlikely, you'll get even more of them, which gets really insane if you do get there. But it's really, really powerful if you do get there. But yeah, a lot of the time it doesn't get there, but that's fine. It's okay. You don't worry too much. You just hope for the best with this one, I guess, but it's one of those cards. I'd rather, again, just sack it for cards or whatever. Dragon's Horde enters the battlefield under your control. You put a gold counter on it. You remove the gold counter, you draw a card, and whenever a dragon enters, you put a gold counter on it. You remove gold counters, you draw, you put tap to add 1 mana of any color. It's okay, only good for dragon decks. And again, if you're in green, you don't need it, so I wouldn't bother with it because most dragon decks are 5-color dragon decks and you just do better than it. It's okay for card draw to a degree, but then again, you would have better than this in terms of card draw as well. So it's and it's only once, when you tap it. So just no. But anyway, Cursed Mirror. It enters the battlefield and you can have it become a copy of any creature on the battlefield until end of turn, except it has haste. And it's a red mana rocks and it taps for red, obviously. So, that's okay. Any creature, that could be your opponent's creatures. So even if you haven't got anything, you can copy one of your opponent's creatures. It's okay, certainly. So yeah, it's useful. Coalition Relic taps for a mana of any color. You can put a charge counter on it by tapping it, and at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you remove all charge counters from it and add mana of any color in each for each charge counter removed that way. It's really good if you can proliferate it and things like that. Then it's really good. But beyond that, if you're not putting more and more charge counters on it than what it naturally can kind of get from it, it's not really that worth it. But if you are doing that, then it is pretty darn decent. But it's still probably a little bit worse than some of the other cards. I do think that this is kind of weirdly a lot like War and Power Stone in many ways, because it seems like it can tap for 2 mana on the next turn and whatnot, because you can remove that counter and then tap it for mana as well. But you really want to keep putting... It seems like you always want to keep putting charge counters on it to get more and more free mana, essentially, each turn and whatnot. So it ends up being just a 3-drop, make 1 mana, unless you can proliferate again. So, yeah, without that, you're kind of just like playing a mana up the taps for, mana up the taps for mana of any color. I'm not going to talk about some of these ones like Mana Geode because it's just Monolith that scries 1 when it enters. Cultivator's Caravan is okay when you crew it, but I don't think it's super duper relevant. Unstable Obelisk, not that amazing. It's okay if you're really in a bind and you happen to have 7 or even 10 mana, probably, because I don't know, you might want to play this all in the same turn, I don't know, just to kill that one permanent that's been bugging you all game, and you finally got there and can get rid of it. Strixhaven Stadium can be a win condition, which is alright. I don't love the fact that it's basically a pseudo infect card, but there you go. You can tap it to add colors, point counter on it. Whenever a creature we control deals combat damage to a player, then we put a point counter on it. Whenever an opponent deals combat damage to us, we remove a point counter from it. Then if it has 10 or more point counters on it, remove them all, and that the player that we hit loses the game. So, that's pretty good. Or, can be pretty good, but I'm not a huge fan of it, again, specifically. But, if you want an extra win condition in your deck, this can be an extra win condition in your deck to a degree. But, of course, people can see it coming and whatnot and can blow it up, and can always hit you to reduce the point counter. So it can be like a little mini game. It can be kind of fun to play around with to a small degree, but again, that's fine. So it was one of those things. I'd rather, again, just sack it to draw cards or whatever or whatnot for the most part for me. But, if that's your jam and you just want an extra win condition, hey, there you go. Crowded Crypt. Taps to add black. Whenever a creature we control dies, we put a corpse counter on it. We play 6 mana to create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed for each corpse counter on the Crypt. So you want at least like 6 or so corpse counters on there to make 6 zombies at least. That would be a decent rate, not a great rate, but a decent rate to get, 6 2/2 zombies. But you've also got to sack things. If you're playing Gravecrawler, then maybe, because you can just be like, oh, I tap this for Gravecrawler, and then I sack Gravecrawler, and then it gets a counter, and, whatnot. I get something else out of it, blah, 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 etc., all of that sort of stuff. So, that can be very useful. The Celestis, I'm not a huge fan of, because it's made for day-night decks, and most of the day-night decks are werewolf decks, and when you're in those decks, you're in green, so you don't need something like this. But if it's neither day nor night, it becomes day as it enters. You could tap to add a mana of any color. You could pay 3. If it's night, it becomes day. Otherwise, it becomes night. Activated only as a sorcery. Whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, you gain 1 life and you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So you get that looting effect, which is okay. Can be useful in day-night decks. There are a couple of other decks that are sort of around day-night, so it can be useful in those decks, but, you really need to be taking advantage of that day-night, or that looting effect, if you aren't really taking advantage of that. Victory Chimes. Actually, Victory Chimes is actually pretty decent, because it untaps during each player's turn, and you can make a lot of mana with it, but you need a way to kind of store that mana unless you're casting a lot of instants. So, yeah, but it is pretty decent because you keep untapping it, and can be political to a degree, and you can give your opponents mana or whatnot, but I would want to give this mana to me and me alone, but you really need to be playing a whole lot of instants for it to be really worth it. You need Vidal and all that sort of stuff to really help you out, and Leyline of blah, 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 blue, to give all your stuff flash so that you can have more instants in your hand as well when you're playing a card like this. Unless you're just playing Group Hug, then whatever. It doesn't really matter. That's kind of irrelevant to this card, I think. Altar of the Pantheon. Your devotion to each color is increased by 1. You add 1 mana of any color. If you control God, Demigod, or enchantment, you gain 1 life. It's fine. Monolith, old card, just taps to add 1 mana of any color. Old card, don't want to use it. Spectral Searchlight, choose a player. That player adds mana of a color they choose. So that's okay. Basically, Monolith. For the most part, I'm not going to talk about the lockets or the crystals too much. They're all kind of basically the same thing for the most part. Comes in, taps. The lockets come in and tap for 1 or 2 colors. You pay the combined 4 mana of any of those 2 colors to sacrifice them to draw 2 cards. The crystals tap for their shard or whatever combination of colors it is, and you can cycle them for 2. They're okay at best. Bonder's Ornament taps, add 1 mana of any color. 4 mana you can tap. Each player who controls a Bonder's Ornament draws a card. So if you're the only one with Bonder's Ornament, you pay 4 to draw a card. But if anyone else has the Bonder's Ornament, maybe they'll pay 4 mana to help you out and draw you a card. Maybe. Who knows? But they'll also draw a card. But basically no one really plays it because, 4 mana to draw 1 card is a bad rate. Even if it's political or whatnot, or can be, it's not worth 4 mana to do that for the most part. Honor Worn Saku. This one's pretty funny. You tap it to add a mana. You can tap and untap legendary permanent you control, your commander, i.e., to untap the Saku or Shaku, whatever. that's pretty good. If you have a whole bunch of legends, you can just keep tapping them to essentially tap for mana, which is kind of good if you're in a legend tribal deck. Can be kind of useful. I'll also lump in the key runes here just for a second. Basically, they're the same as the lockets. Come in, tap for 2 colors. You can pay 2 colors to do something, blah, 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 which is pretty irrelevant. Mostly turning them into a creature of some kind with some abilities, blah, blah, blah. So they're not really worth it. Seer's Lantern, taps for colors, pay 2, scry 1. And tap and scry 1. Not really relevant that much. Elmeter's Palette. I think I'm saying that right. Whenever you cast an X spell, you put 2 charge counters on it. You add 1 mana of any color, or you can add colors for each charge counter on the palette and spend mana only to cast spells that contain X. It's okay. Oh, I should say Clue Stones as well, because I forgot about Clue. Oh, no, I just said Clue Stones. No, Key Runes. Sorry, not Clue Stones. Key Runes, whatever. Sort of the same thing anyway as Key Runes. Taps for two of any color banners. You pay those 2 colors of mana. You draw a second and draw a card. Just, fine, whatever. Letter of Acceptance taps to add 1 mana of any color. You tap 2, sacrifice it to draw a card. Not nearly as good as Command Sphere because you actually have to pay 2 to sack it, and the rate isn't amazing. That's why the Clue Stones are also not amazing, and why the other cards are not that amazing, because it's like, well, the going rate isn't that good. Mystifying Glass taps for a colors, pay 4 mana to investigate, so you have to pay 6 mana to draw a card, essentially. Not that amazing. Honored Heirloom, tap 1 mana of any color, you tap 2, exile a card from a graveyard. That's okay, but not that amazing. Component Pouch, you have to tap it and roll a d20 to put 1 component counter on it if you get 1 through 9. 10 to 20, you put 2 compartment counters on it. Then you can tap it to remove a compartment counter and add 2 mana of different colors. Too much work, too many hoops to go through to just get 2 mana on every other turn. Dungeon Map taps to add a colors, tap for 3 and tap it and tap 3. Venture into the dungeon only as a sorcery, not that amazing. The banners, the obelisks, not that amazing. They all come in and tap for 3 different colors of mana. The banners, you can pay 3 mana and sacrifice them to draw a card. Not that amazing, not terrible, but not that amazing. The obelisks don't do anything other than tap for the manas that they tap for. Vessel of Endless Rest. ETBs, you can put target card from a graveyard on its the bottom of its own library and taps for a mana of any color. Pristine Talisman just taps for a colorless and you gain 1 life. That's there if you're really in life gain, but most life gain is in mono white, so just be a little bit worried about that, I guess. Whatever, that's fine. Ozra Relic, it has Ascend, so whatever. You taps for colors and you can sacrifice it to gain 3 life and draw a card only if you have the City's Blessing. So that's okay-ish, especially since you can tap it at any time, essentially, and sacrifice it to get that effect, but it's much better when you don't have to tap it to a degree, because if you, like Command Sphere, can tap it for mana and sack it at the same time, then it's a little bit better than what it normally is. Glittering Stockpile is a new one. You tap for a red and you put a stash counter on the stockpile. You can Tap it and sack the stockpile to add X mana of any one color, where X is the number of stash counters on the stockpile. So you can just tap slowly and be getting a little bit of mana out of it, or sack it and get a whole lot of mana out of it. Can be somewhat useful in some decks. So yeah, it can be a like late game ritual or whatnot. Adding a whole bunch of mana. Network Thermal taps for 1 mana of any color. Tap one and tap it. Tap another untapped artifact you control. Draw a card, then discard a card. Not amazing. Font of Fountain of Ichor, sorry. Taps for a mana of any color. You tap 3, and it becomes a 3/3 creature until end of turn. So yeah, sure. Spinning Wheel taps for mana of any color, 5 mana and tap. Tap target creature. Don't think that that's that good. Power Stone Shard. These would actually be good if you could run multiples of them somehow, because they tap for colors for each artifact you control named Power Stone Shard. Pity we're playing in a singleton format here. But yeah, they're okay. Border Posts, some of them are actually pretty decent. If you have them early enough, they're just really good, I think. But yeah, they're not amazing, but they're only really good early if you bounce that land and then can play that land on the turn that you already bounced it back to your hand kind of thing. So they're only good like that. So they're essentially a play on turn 2 card for the most part. But they are decent, I think, for 1 mana, though they do enter the battlefield tapped. But they do tap for 2 different colors. So if you're in the right colors for, I think there's 5 of them. The ones that aren't in green obviously are pretty darn good, because again, why would you need them in any other color, or why would you need them in green? But yeah, like, they're okay. Mere Reservoir. Tap to add 2 to your mana pool. Only spend this mana to cast Mere spells or activate Mere abilities. You can pay 3 mana to return a Mere card from your graveyard to your hand. So, that's okay as well. Hierophant's Chalice enters the battlefield. Target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Too little, because it's only target opponent. So, yeah, not really worth it. Heart of Ramos, add 1 red mana to your mana pool. You can sacrifice it to add 1 mana of 1 red mana to your mana pool. So you can tap it and sack it at the same time to essentially add 2 mana on 1 turn. Especially useful when people do go to maybe blow it up. That can be useful. But not super duper amazing. I want to talk about like Ojutai, Colligan, and all of the other dragon monuments. These are okay because they can tap for 1 of each manas, and these mostly turn into somewhat decent creatures, but the cost for getting these things as creatures is just way too high. It's 6 mana for all of them, I think, at least. So that's just not really that worth it. Getting a 4/4, flying dragon for 6, out of a mana rock is okay. Late game, whatever, but it's only until end of turn. I'm not going to invest 6 mana to get another 6/6 for 1 turn. Unless that's the only thing that's keeping me alive. And at that point, it's probably dead anyway, because it probably just blocked the things that I needed it to. So it can be useful in that way, but beyond that, I don't really think it's that worth the time. Eye of Ramos, you add a blue mana by tapping it. You again sacrifice it to add blue. Each of these parts of Ramos does a different color. Skull of Ramos is black. Tooth of Ramos is white. I can't remember what the other one is. We'll find it in a minute anyway. Chronotog Totem taps to add blue. Pay 1 in blue. A token becomes a 1/2 blue Atog creature token until end of turn. Pay 0, and a Tog totem gets +3/+3 until end of turn. You skip your next turn. Play this only during once during your turn, only if a Tog token is a creature. So it's a kind of weird Atog thing. You do weird Atog stuff and then blah 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 win the game somehow. That's what I've been told. So yeah. Yeah. But anyway, Thunder Totem taps for a white, 3 mana, 1 and double white, becomes a 2/2 creature until end of with flying until end of turn. That's okay. Serum Powder. Actually, Serum Powder might be the next best one that I think we're going to talk about here. Taps for a colorless mana. Anytime you could mulligan and Serum Powder is in your hand, you may exile all cards from your hand, then draw that many cards. So it can be useful if you're really looking for a decent hand and you just don't want to technically mulligan, but you want to mulligan. You can just get rid of this and get rid of your hand. Though you might want some of those cards in your deck, so that's a really hard thing to sort of do sometimes. Though if you've just got the worst hand in the world, it can be fine sometimes. So yeah. Phyrexian Totem taps to add black, 3 mana, 2 and a black. It becomes a 5/5 horror until end of turn. Whenever it's dealt damage, if it's a creature, sacrifice that many permanents. So you don't want to turn it into a creature very much. Phyrexian Lens, you pay 1 life, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. I think Mutavault and things like this are better, or not Mutavault, Monolith, rather, is better than this. Asian Totem taps for red. 5 mana in total, 4 in a red. Becomes a 4/4 giant until end of turn. As long as the creature it can block an additional creature. Drake Skull cameo, Demir Manarok. Karen Toy. Put a 1 mana and tap, put a charge counter on it, remove X charge counters from it, add X +1 colorless mana to your mana pool. So kind of again a slow, storage mana rock. Soul Grail. Yeah. Choose a color as it enters, and it taps for a mana of the chosen color. Bloodstone cameo taps for Rakdos mana. Shrine of Bloodless Growth. At the beginning of your upkeep or whenever you cast a green spell, you put a charge counter on this and you sacrifice this thing and you add 1 colorless mana to your mana pool for each charge counter on this thing. So, yeah, that's fine, but yeah, you really probably don't need it. Soul Separator. You pay 5 mana. Oh, wait, actually, this isn't anything, is it? Move on. Mana Prism taps for all colorless mana, and you can pay 1, tap it, add 1 mana of any mana color. Horn of Ramos was the last one. Green mana. There we go. The most irrelevant one. Wither Seed Totem taps for a green, so this is probably the most irrelevant one. Becomes a 5/3 when you pay 2 and triple green. When it's put into a graveyard from play, if it was a creature, you can return this card to your hand. Shell cameo is Azorius mana rock. Warden of the Wall enters the battlefield taps for a colors. As long as it's not your turn, it's a 2/3 gargoyle artifact creature with flying. Altar of the Lost. Enters the battlefield tap. Add 2 mana of any combination of colors to your mana pool. Spend this mana only to cast spells with flashback from your graveyard. Astrolabe. Sacrifice it for 1. Add 2 mana. Trollhorn cameos, a Gruul one. Terrain cameos, a Selesnya one. Chameleon Orb of Dragonkind, red mana rock. When you spend the red mana to cast a dragon spell, gains haste until EOT. Desiccator of Endless Water. It's a 3-drop Thought Vessel. Jade Orb of Dragonkind, green mana rock. When you spend the green to cast a dragon creature, it enters with additional +1 counter. Lantern of Revealing, you can add 1 mana of any color. Pay 4 mana, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it into the battlefield tap. If you don't put the card into the battlefield, you may put it on the bottom of your library. Lapis, Orb of Dragonkind, blue mana rock. When you cast a dragon with it, you scry 2. Peritor's Seal taps for 1 mana of any color. Pay 1, tap it. Untap target legendary creature you control. Vexing Puzzle Box. Whenever you roll 1 or more dice, put a number of charge counters on it equal to the result. Add 1 mana of any color. You can roll a d20. You can remove 100 puzzle counters from the puzzle box. Search your library for an artifact card. Put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Very, 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 very lots of work there for not a lot of payoff. And that is all the mana rocks that are 3-drop mana rocks. So we went through all of them here. And even some of, like I just said, mostly this one's not very good, this one's not very good. So there's not a huge amount of them that are that amazingly good. Not that there's a huge amount of terrible ones, it's just not that there's a huge amount of amazingly good ones. It's very hard to find amazingly good 3-drop mana rocks. So that's the thing. Like, it's not that they're all bad, or all terrible, but just the really good ones are really sort of hard to find. And I think that there's some, like, again, classic bias to a degree against for certain older cards that were somewhat playable a few years ago and whatnot, because they were playable a few years ago, so they obviously should be playable now, but the format has changed so much that you really need your mana rock to do a lot for you if you're at 3 mana for your mana rock, because you could just be playing those 2-drop mana rocks, and even then, again, like, that's where I'm always at. I'm always at, right, what are all the really good 2-drop mana rocks that I could be playing, and then just, that's it. Like, if I'm not playing in green, that's where I'm at. All the really good 2-drop mana rocks, and then if you're into a more competitive mindset, you're looking at not even that. You're just like looking at the 1-drop stroke 0-drop ones. You're looking at all the fast mana essentially. So that's where that is really, you really got to look at it in that way, that the people that are playing extremely casual are playing maybe some of these, or if you're on an extreme budget or whatever, or you're on a challenge or whatever, these are the sort of things you might play or whatnot. You wouldn't really play a whole lot of the other ones either beyond 4 mana, and I want to talk about those ones eventually soon too, but again, we'll probably go through some of them and just say, well, this is not really worth it, this is not really worth it, but hey, it is what it is. I want to talk about it, and the thing is, like, again, you know, they'll print new mana rocks every year. Like, so we might go through some new ones here and there when they come out. There's new Vexing Puzzle Box just came out. We, didn't have that, a few months ago or whatever it was. But now we have it. But even so, it's still not that amazingly good. So, yeah. But whatever. It is what it is. It is what it is, as I say. But anyway, guys, you can let me know your thoughts on this. Write them down there below. Which mana rocks do you find playable that are 3 mana? I don't find any of them really playable. That's just me personally, but you can let me know your thoughts on that, or like my opinion of it, or whatever, like, because I know some people are very passionate about how good apparently 3-drop mana rocks are. I don't think they're that amazing. I'll just stick to the 2 mana ones because I just think that they're much better for the most part. So like, even when they're not that good, they're still, a mana cheaper than the other mana rocks I'm going to get. And when I get them early, they're much better because I can deploy them sooner and quicker and more efficiently. And again, even if I get them more mid-game, they're at least more efficient again, so that I can deploy them easier and get what I want to get out of them much easier. But that's just the way that I look at it. As I say, you can write your thoughts down there in the comments below. I love interacting with you guys, discussing all these things in EDH that we love to discuss. But yeah, if I don't see you down there in those comments, I'll see you in the next one.